Now, this Miami influencer dies mysteriously on vacation in Tanzania, leaving her family demanding answers.
Brooke is here with the very latest on this story.
Yeah, this story's been going viral all over the internet. So many people have questions. Her family has questions. A dream trip turned into a family's nightmare. Influencer Ashlee Jenae Robinson was on a vacation in Zanzibar. That's off the coast of Tanzania. She had just celebrated her birthday. Social media posts show she got engaged on this trip. But this morning, her death is under investigation and her family wants answers.
I got 2 emails today from the embassy in Zanzibar, and they said the investigation is still ongoing. That they have not determined the cause of death yet at all, and the investigation is still ongoing and still pending right now. So there has nothing official has been released. That's what we're trying to find out. We just want answers.
That is part of an interview 31-year-old Ashlee's parents and their spouses did with TMZ's Charlie Neff. In a statement, her family says she was on what should have been one of the happiest trips of her life. They say they were told she was found unconscious in her luxury villa and rushed to a local hospital. BBC Africa reports earlier police had said Ashlee had attempted to take her own life. It appears her parents also got that message, but they don't buy it. At this point, authorities say the investigation is ongoing, and her family says one of their biggest frustrations surrounds when they were notified something was wrong.
The initial call that she got from Joe was 11 hours after something had transpired in the room. And that's very odd. 11 hours later,
11 hours.
Something had transpired, and Joe just relayed to Yolanda that Ashlee was okay and she was stable and she was okay and don't worry about it.
But that she was at the hospital.
Yes. 11 hours later.
Now, Ashlee was later pronounced dead at the hospital, and her family says they have had no communication with her fiance since. Also, to note, BBC Africa is reporting authorities said Ashlee and her fiance were reported to have had a disagreement, and the hotel management separated them into different rooms. The hotel wouldn't confirm that part of what authorities had said, but authorities also say they are holding her fiance's passport during the investigation.
Did investigators say if she had any signs of mental health issues or disorders or anything like that?
Yeah, no, of course, it's a big question, right? Especially given the initial statement that was reported from authorities. But nothing from authorities on that note. Her family, though, says they knew nothing of the sort.
Of any kind of struggles with mental health issues.
And so the fiance is still in custody or being
in Africa.
Okay.
Well, in Africa, they were holding his passport. No official word from authorities if he is in custody.
Just right.
And the hotel separated the 2 of them.
That's what the authorities say. The hotel wouldn't talk about that. And I wonder, you know, it's different. You can get an official notice from authorities, from police, but maybe the hotel has different privacy rules and they wouldn't say.
Yeah. What a bizarre story.
It's a bizarre story.
Yeah.
Just turned 31, just got engaged. You know, of course, there's no perfect face to mental health issues, and so we don't want to, you know, be up here speaking as if there is. It's just you can understand her family has questions.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's sad.
Ooh, all right, we'll have to see what
sad.
happens there. Thank you, Brooke.
We're learning new details tonight about the death of an influencer with local ties who was found dead while on vacation in Africa. Ashlee Robinson, who goes by Ashlee Jenae online, was on a birthday trip with her fiance at the time.
Well, tonight we're learning her fiance is still being questioned as Robinson's family desperately tries to find out what happened to her.
It is Tuesday night. Shari's off. Alicia Vitarelli is joining us, and the big story in Action News is the mysterious death of a South Jersey woman, now drawing international attention.
Now, tonight, we know new details from authorities about her death. She was on a vacation of a lifetime in Zanzibar, Tanzania, which is on the east coast of Africa. Action News reporter John Paul live in the Satellite Center now with the very latest, and the family desperate for answers, John.
Yeah, Alicia, Rick, they are desperate for those answers. Now, we did get some new information. We know that authorities in Tanzania have confiscated her fiance's passport. This is while he's still being questioned. But according to the BBC, local authorities there in Tanzania did not originally suspect him of any wrongdoing, while the family continues to be desperate to know what happened.
I don't think no one else is going to fight for it the way we will.
That fight continues tonight as the parents of Ashlee Robinson press for answers as to what happened to their daughter who was found dead in Tanzania. Today, the 2 spent the day in Washington, D.C., trying to get information from the embassy. They spoke with Action News yesterday, saying they were getting nowhere.
No one wants to talk to us. Like, just let us know what happened. That's the only thing we want to know is the truth.
There is nothing that's confirmed. We don't have anything from the police or law enforcement that states that there is a conclusion to anything. It's under investigation, and it's under investigation because it doesn't look right.
Robinson, a 31-year-old social media influencer who went by Ashlee Jenae online, was found unresponsive in her hotel room in Zanzibar and declared dead April 9th. Police say they're investigating it as a possible suicide. But investigators in Tanzania said she had been in a fight with her fiancé, Joe McCann, hours earlier, and the two were separated by hotel staff. He was moved to a different villa, which was about a 10-minute walk away from where she was staying. Her parents are now pushing for security footage from the Zuri Zanzibar hotel.
If there's security footage, that will tell the story. So we just want to know if there's any security footage, if there's anything just to saying that what he's saying is true.
The hotel hasn't responded to them, but did provide a brief statement to ABC News, saying they were deeply saddened by a tragic incident involving one of our guests. Tonight, the family's preparing to fly to Zanzibar to try to get answers in person.
I just know that I have to keep going forward. I'm never going to give up. And I just want the truth out there.
Ashlee Jenae's world, at least on the surface, looked like something most people only dream about. Her social media was a steady stream of golden sunsets, soft ocean waves, and carefully framed moments that felt both effortless and intentional. She had built a following by letting people into her life, her travels, her style, and most recently, her relationship. To her audience, it felt real. It felt aspirational. And when she announced her birthday trip to Zanzibar, it seemed like just another chapter in a life that was steadily rising. Then came the moment that truly captured attention. During that trip, surrounded by luxury and the quiet beauty of the island, she got engaged. The photos were everything her followers had come to expect. Romantic, glowing, almost cinematic. Comments poured in. Congratulations, admiration, even envy. It looked like a turning point, the beginning of something permanent and beautiful. For many watching, it felt like the perfect story unfolding in real time. But if you look closely, the timeline begins to feel slightly off. The posts weren't as consistent. The energy, though subtle, seemed to shift. It's the kind of thing you don't notice right away, but in hindsight, it lingers. Because sometimes, what we see online is only part of the story, and what's left out matters just as much. And if stories like this draw your attention, make sure you like and subscribe, because sometimes the truth behind the picture is far more complicated than it first appears. What started as a celebration, a birthday, and a promise of a future was already beginning to take a different turn, and no one watching from the outside could have guessed just how quickly everything was about to change. Zanzibar was supposed to be the kind of place where memories are made for all the right reasons. The air carried that calm, almost surreal stillness that comes with being far away from everything familiar. White ramals stretched endlessly into clear blue water, and the atmosphere felt designed for celebration. For Ashlee Jenae, this was more than just another trip. It was her birthday, her engagement, a moment that should have marked the beginning of something new and exciting. At first, everything appeared to follow that script. The setting was perfect, the villa secluded and luxurious, offering privacy and peace. From the outside, nothing seemed out of place. But somewhere between the filtered images and the reality of the trip, something shifted. Reports would later suggest that an argument broke out between Ashlee and her fiancé. The details remain unclear, but what is known is that it was serious enough to draw attention. Hotel staff reportedly stepped in. The situation escalated to the point where the two were separated, placed in different rooms to cool off. That detail alone changes the tone of the entire story. What should have been a quiet, romantic getaway now carried tension, unspoken, unresolved, and building beneath the surface. It raises questions that still don't have clear answers. What caused the argument? Was it sudden, or had something been building over time? And why did it escalate so quickly in a place meant for celebration? Share this video with someone who follows stories like this, because what happens next only deepens the mystery. The last confirmed moments of Ashlee being seen alive come from this period of separation. No dramatic warning, no clear sign of what was about to unfold, just a quiet pause before everything changed. And in that silence, the story begins to take a darker turn. What happened next unfolded quickly, but the details remain frustratingly unclear. At some point after the separation, concern began to replace whatever tension had filled the earlier hours. Ashlee was found unresponsive inside the villa, and in an instant, the situation shifted from a private dispute to a medical emergency. There was no warning to the outside world, no time for anyone watching from afar to understand what was happening. People close to the situation were trying to piece together what had happened in real time. While thousands of miles away, her followers had no idea that anything was wrong. The timeline of those moments would later become one of the most important and most questioned parts of the entire case. Who found her? How long had she been alone? What exactly happened in the time between the argument and the discovery? These are the kinds of details that should bring clarity, but instead, they seem to raise even more questions. If you're still watching, comment your thoughts below, because what comes next only makes things more complicated. Despite the efforts to save her, Ashlee was pronounced dead not long after arriving at the hospital. Just like that, a trip that had started with celebration ended in sudden loss. The shift was almost impossible to process, from engagement photos and birthday moments to headlines and confusion. And as the news began to spread, the story didn't become clearer. Instead, it began to split into different versions, each one leaving out something important, each one adding another layer of uncertainty to what really happened in those final hours. In the hours and days that followed, what should have brought clarity only seemed to deepen the uncertainty. Authorities began their investigation, working to reconstruct a timeline that on the surface appeared straightforward, but quickly revealed gaps that were difficult to ignore. Statements were taken, movements were traced, and attention naturally turned to the person who had been closest to Ashlee in those final hours, her fiancé. He was not charged with any crime, but he became central to the investigation. His account of what happened, the sequence of events he described, and the decisions made that night were all placed under scrutiny. Reports indicated that his passport was withheld, a move that signaled how seriously authorities were treating the situation. Still, without official conclusions, everything remained in a space of uncertainty, questions without clear answers. At the same time, Ashlee's family began to speak out, and their voices added a completely different dimension to the story. They pushed back against early suggestions and made it clear that they did not agree with certain narratives being presented. To them, this wasn't just an investigation. It was about understanding what truly happened to someone they loved. They called for transparency, for access to information, and for a thorough examination of every detail, no matter how small. Make sure you're subscribed, because cases like this often take unexpected turns, and this one was far from over. As more attention gathered around the case, inconsistencies became harder to ignore. The timeline still felt incomplete. Key details remained either unclear or disputed. And with every new update, instead of bringing closure, the story seemed to move further away from it. By now, one thing was certain. This was no longer just a private tragedy. It had become a growing mystery, with too many unanswered questions and no clear resolution in sight. As the days turned into weeks, the story of Ashlee Jenae moved far beyond the walls of the villa where everything changed. What began as a private tragedy had now become a global conversation. Across social media, people tried to make sense of the limited information available, piecing together timelines, analyzing posts, and forming their own theories about what might have happened. But the more the story spread, the more complicated it seemed to become. Still, beneath all the speculation, there was a real person at the center of it all. Ashlee was more than headlines and unanswered questions. She was someone with a life, a family, and a future that had just begun to unfold. Her loved ones continued to push for clarity, asking for full transparency and a complete investigation into her final hours. For them, this wasn't about online debates or viral discussions. It was about truth, and about making sure her story didn't end in uncertainty. At the same time, official updates remained limited. Authorities continued their work, but without a clear conclusion, the case stayed open in the minds of many. The unanswered questions lingered. What really happened in those final moments? And why did such a promising trip end the way it did? These are the kinds of questions that don't fade easily, especially when there are still pieces missing. Like, share, and subscribe if you want more stories that go beyond the surface, because sometimes the truth takes time to come into focus. And that's where this story remains. Not fully closed, not fully understood. Just a reminder that behind every perfect post, there can be a reality we never see, and sometimes the truth is still waiting to be uncovered.